Welcome to the anti-TBR tag. I have never done this tag before, I'm pretty sure. And I've been making these videos since like 2016, 2017. And I'm so surprised that I've never done this tag, but I have attempted to do this tag multiple times, but every time that I try to do it, I always get like nervous about doing it, mainly because like I'll look at the questions and like the thought of even answering those questions just fills me with dread. And it's not necessarily because I think that people are going to be like mean to me about my answers. I just like don't like to think about the authors or the books that I don't like. That's probably why I've put off this tag for so long, but I decided I finally wanted to do it, especially since I feel like on YouTube and TikTok as well, a lot of people have been talking about the books or the authors that they will never read from. And I actually did make a quick little like TikTok about that a few months ago, but now I really want to do the anti-TBR tag. So I'm really excited to do this. I do want to give like the quickest, shortest disclaimer. If you like any of these books or these authors, that is totally fine. You do you, I will do me, and we can all be happy and coexist together. So we're gonna get right on into the questions, and the first one is a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. So I actually came up with 5 different answers for this question because I feel like I have a lot of like popular books that I just have no interest in reading. This list probably could have been like 4 or 5 times longer, but I wanted to narrow it down to 5. So the first one is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas, and I just have no interest in reading this book from like everything I've seen about it. I've read some excerpts, like people have posted quotes from the book, and everything I've seen from that book just does not make me want to read it. It like does not inspire any interest in me, which is kind of a bummer because I am a sucker for like those rom-com books with the illustrated covers. I love those so much, and just to know that there are some of them out there that I have like no interest in reading is heartbreaking. So okay, it's not that dramatic, but you get the picture. The next one is also another one of those like illustrated cover rom-coms, and that is Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. Not interested. Could not even be less interested. Like, I do not like dentists. I don't want to read about dentistry. I don't want to read about teeth or mouths or anything going on in this area unless it's about kissing. I don't need to know the ins and outs of these characters' mouths and like teeth and gums and stuff. Sounds so gross to me. Just grosses me out, makes me want to vomit. No thank you. The next book is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, and this one is mainly because of like all of the huge issues surrounding this author. I can link some like articles down below, but basically, long story short, Delia Owens and her husband, and possibly also her son or brother or something like that, they're wanted for questioning in Zambia because of like this murder that happened there that involves some poachers. So there's some questionable things going on with Delia Owens and her family. So I want to stay 1,000 yards away from that book. It's not my thing. The next book is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, and this one is kind of like complicated, I guess, because I did want to read this book a few months ago, or maybe longer than a few months ago, but I did want to read this book, and now I've just kind of like lost all interest in the book. Not really for any reason in particular, like I can't necessarily like pinpoint why I don't want to read this book. I just have completely lost interest. Like, it's too long, it's gonna be too sad, I just don't want to put myself through it, so we're not going to read that book. And the last one is Zodiac Academy by Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti. At least I think that's how you pronounce their names. I'm not sure. But this is another one that's like huge on TikTok, I think, and I just don't have interest in it. I see it literally everywhere on both like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever. I'm just not interested. Nothing about it sounds intriguing to me. And like, I think that there's just been like too much drama surrounding that series and like those authors, so not for me. I can excuse myself from this one. The next question is a classic book or author you don't have any interest in reading. This one was kind of difficult to answer, mainly because I never want to say never, especially when it comes to a classic. Like, I always have these lofty ideas in my head where I'm like, I'm going to read these classics. We are going to have like a classic reading month or something like that. And it never happens. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe I will have a classic reading month sometime this year. Who knows? But it typically never happens. However, I feel like there is one author. There's probably other authors, I just can't think of them, but there's definitely one author that I will probably never read from, and that is Charles Dickens. Like, I just have no interest at all in reading anything from Dickens, which is really funny because I went through a phase where I loved the Dickens movie adaptations. Like, I watched Great Expectations, I watched Nicholas Nickleby, like all of them. I loved them so much. But despite that, despite my love for Great Expectations, like, I love that movie. It's so good. It's so good. And I love Nicholas Nickleby as well. That one has Charlie Hunnam. I can't remember the guy's name in Great Expectations. He's in Mamma Mia. I can't remember his name. Shoot. I should know it. Oh well. Anyway, I loved those movies. I should want to read the books, but I just have no desire to. I don't think that I will ever read a Dickens book. I know they're long. Like, I'm pretty sure they're long, so no. I have other classics to read. Question number 3 is an author whose books you have no interest in reading, and that one 100% goes to Colleen Hoover. And not for really any problematic reason. It's really just I have no interest in reading any of her books. I remember when I first started like making booktube videos, Colleen Hoover was huge back in like 2017. And I remember thinking like, oh, maybe I will read a Colleen Hoover book. Maybe I will pick one up from the library and I'll just like read it. And it never happened. Never happened for me. Never actually got to one of those books. And by the time like I could get my hands on one of them, I just didn't care anymore. So I have no interest in reading Colleen Hoover. I'm pretty sure she has a new book coming out, or maybe it's already come out. I'm not gonna read any of her books. I'm so sorry. I'm sure she's a great person. I think I talked about this in my TikTok. I like mentioned her name and somebody in the comments was like, but Colleen Hoover's such a nice person, like I've met her, she's so nice. I'm like, it's not about whether she's nice or not, I just don't want to read her books. Like, I'm not going to read somebody's book just because they're a nice person. Like, that's great that she's nice to her fans, like that's awesome, but that's not a reason for me to read any of her books. Let's just be real. The next question is like part 2 of question 3, and this is a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. And this one is actually probably the easiest question for me to answer because I do on my notes app have a list of authors that are on my shit list, and they're authors that like I refuse to read because of issues, like actual like problematic issues. We're just gonna list some of them off because I don't need to go into like deep explanations for like why I'm not gonna read these people. There have been countless blog posts and videos explaining why these authors are problematic, so if you are interested in finding out more, go Google it. It's all there. So the first author on this list is Sarah J. Maas. I feel like this is probably the most obvious one. Just a lot of issues, not only in her books but also her as a person. Jay Kristoff, another one who has issues in his books and as a person. Just no thank you. This one always is contentious. I always get like questions about this one. You can make up your own mind about this particular author. I literally don't care. Personally, I just don't want to support him, and this is Brandon Sanderson, mainly because he is an active member of the Mormon Church, and if you are an active member of the Mormon Church, you have to tithe, and the Mormon Church is actively homophobic, transphobic, and has a lot of history with racism, and there's still a lot of racism even if it's not like technically built into the systems anymore. So yeah, I just have an issue with buying his books, promoting him as an author, and having that money go to the Mormon church. So yeah. If you would still like to support Brandon Sanderson, that is totally fine. You do you. Like I said in the beginning of the video, you do you. I will do me. I'm not here to try to persuade you into not supporting these authors. Like, I literally don't care. The next one is Emily A. Duncan. I feel like this is another like really obvious one. There was like a huge scandal issue with her, so that's definitely one that has been talked about quite a lot ever since it happened. I think, what, last year? And then the last author in this list, I mean, this is not like definitive by any means, but the last one is Jessica Cluess, another one that was kind of a really public, problematic, big issue. The next question is an author you have read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. This one is actually kind of like a new to me author. I have recently read 2 of her books and just absolutely did not like them, and that is unfortunately Nora Ephron. Like, I love her movies so much, and like R.I.P. just first of all. I love When Harry Met Sally, I love Sleepless in Seattle, I love You've Got Mail. Some of my favorite movies of all time. I just recently watched them for the first time, instantly fell in love. Unfortunately, I have read 2 of her books and I just did not like them. They were like very solid 2-star books, which is pretty negative in my book, and I personally just did not like them. They are nonfiction, so that I don't think that had really anything to do with it, honestly, because I do love nonfiction. I read a lot of it, but there was something about her books that I just did not personally love. I know that there are a lot of people, one of my favorite booktubers of like ever, Carly from Uncarly, loves Nora Ephron's books, but personally I just could not get into them. I was so disappointed because I literally took her recommendations for these books and it just didn't work out. I just didn't like them. So I probably won't read anything else from Nora Ephron in the future. Because I think she has some other books or like short stories or plays or whatever. Maybe I'll read one of the plays, I don't know. But I'm definitely not reading anything else that's like nonfiction. And I will definitely watch the movies still. Like, the movies are still really good. The next question is a genre you have no interest in or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. This question is always one of my least favorite questions because I feel like there are a lot of genres that I don't necessarily read on a regular basis, but I don't like dislike those genres, like horror, thriller, sci-fi, etc. But while I was like doing some research, being like, what genre could I possibly say that like I definitely do not like? And for me, it's going to be like action adventure genres, something like Call of the Wild. Like, think of Call of the Wild. Anything similar to that book, I refuse to read. I hate those kind of books. I hate wilderness kind of books. I don't like books where like they have to survive the night or whatever, like in the wilderness. I don't want an adventure. And this is like not in terms of fantasy adventure. I think fantasy adventure is really fun, but when it's real world set in the wilderness, there's no other like a sort of like, I guess you would say like a man versus nature kind of book. Don't like that. Don't like it. Keep it away from me. I don't care. I am not a nature girly, and if I am, it's going to be at the beach and it's going to be like fluffy, light, contemporary romance. I don't need to hear about like how this dude is trying to find wild berries or like make a fire or survive. Like, I don't care. They tried to make me care in school. They tried to get me to read Call of the Wild, and I did, and I hated it. So yeah, we have beef. Me and the school system, at least. Question number 6 is a book you have bought but will never read. This can be a book you have unhauled or returned to the library, whatever. I have not gone to the library like and physically checked out a book in maybe 2 or 3 years. Like, I can't necessarily do it with the library, but I can do it with books that I have bought. So one of the books that I bought right when it came out, because I don't know, I was just like feeling nostalgic, I was feeling the vibe, I really wanted to read it, and I think that I was just trying to like heal my inner 12-year-old, and that was Midnight Sun by Stephenie Meyer. Me and Stephenie Meyer have beef. If she would have released this back when I was like in middle school, before like I had ever formed a cohesive thought, I would have loved it. I would have eaten it up. I would have been obsessed. But unfortunately, I am 27 years old. I have formed complete thoughts. I have opinions, and me and Stephenie Meyer do not align at all. So, I think that I just bought this in the heat of the moment. Nostalgia really got to me in that moment in Target, where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy it, and I regret the decision every day. So yeah, we're not gonna read Midnight Sun. It is up on my Pango Books account, but currently we're having car issues, so I can't really get to like the post office. So yeah, anyway, yeah, we're not gonna read Midnight Sun. Also, I haven't read Twilight since I was probably 14, and I honestly don't think that I would like it all that much now. So the next question is a series you have no interest in reading, or a series you started and have DNF'd. I feel like there are a lot of series that I have started and haven't finished yet, mainly because I'm just really bad at reading series. Like, I'm so bad at committing to a series and continuing it and finishing it, seeing it all the way through. The series that I have finished, it's like a goddamn miracle that I ever finished those books. However, there is a series that I have technically completed, however it is ongoing even though it shouldn't be, and that is the Grishaverse series. I refuse to read another Grishaverse novel ever again. Ever again. The last book, Rule of Wolves, that she put out, absolute garbage. Absolute garbage. I'm so mad at that book still to this day. I hate that book. And it really just kind of like opened my eyes to how lukewarm I feel about that entire series in general. Like, I didn't even like the Grisha trilogy. I gave most of those books under 4 stars. Most of them I think were like 3 stars, and then the last one, Rune and Rising, was, right? Is that Rune and Rising? I don't know. I don't think I have them on my shelves anymore. I might. Oh no, it's right there. The last book, Rune and Rising, really pissed me off, and I hated that book. I think I gave it like 2 stars. And I realized that the only books that I actually loved, that I actually gave 5 stars, were Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. Like, those were the only 2 books from that entire series, that entire collection, that I actually genuinely enjoyed. And that's a problem for me. Like, why am I continuing to dedicate myself to this series if I don't even like most of the books? Like, I didn't get it. I think it was because I love the concept so much, and there's just something about like certain characters in these books that just draw me in, but the majority of the characters I don't even like. And then there are just so many parts of these books where I'm just like, why am I reading this? And honestly, with Rule of Wolves, it really just showed me that Leigh Bardugo's writing is so different now. And I feel like she's really, especially in that book, she was really trying to like correct a lot of the wrongs that she perceived in the earlier books. So it almost felt like a lot of the characters in Rule of Wolves were completely out of character. Like, there was a kind of like cameo from Alina and Mal, and they did not feel like themselves at all. Like, they felt like completely different characters. Like, I'd never met them before. And I'm like, who are these people? Like, that's not Alina. That's definitely not Mal. Like, and then like the Darkling, like the retcon of the Darkling in that book is just mind-boggling. Like, there's so much retconning going on in Rule of Wolves. It was almost like she was mad at like certain fans for perceiving the books in a certain way, even though like that's how she wrote them, and then her just like going back and being like, no guys, this is what I meant. And it just doesn't fit with the rest of the books, and it's really weird. It's very jarring. And yeah, I just personally did not love that book. I really hated it. I have beef with that book. That book is my sworn enemy. Yeah. So I love Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I can't ever take that love back. However, the rest of the series I don't like, and I will not be reading any other books that she puts out in the Grishaverse. And the very last question is a new release you have no interest in reading, and that one definitely goes to Kirito is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I hate this cover. I hate this cover with a burning passion. You will never ever ever see this cover on my bookshelves. Never. Doesn't matter. I don't care. It's so ugly. Both versions, both the UK and the US covers, so ugly. Like, I don't know how they designed this cover because it truly makes me sick. I hate to say that. That sounds really mean, but I just do not like this cover. Actually, you know what? I don't like most Taylor Jenkins Reid covers. That's really weird. The only cover I actually like from any of her books is the original US cover of Daisy Jones and the Six. Like, that is the only cover from Taylor Jenkins Reid that I think is even remotely aesthetically pleasing. But it's not only that, it's just that, like, I don't have any interest in Kirito's story. Like, I don't care about tennis. I don't really love the premise of the story. It sounds a little iffy. It sounds a little questionable. I don't want to get into any details on that because I haven't read the book, so I can't really make any like true judgments. But just from first impressions, not interested. Not interested. So we're definitely not going to be reading Kirito is Back. Even if like the reviews are positive, I probably won't be reading it. I just don't have any interest in it. That's like the end of the story. Alright, so that was the entire video. I had a really fun time getting to answer these questions. It did definitely feel a little bit uncomfortable, but you know what, we got over that fear, we got over that, you know, feeling uncomfortable, and we filmed this video. I'm so proud of myself. I've always wanted to film this video, and I'm just really glad that I finally did. So I hope you all enjoyed this one, and if you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, Storygraph, TikTok. All the links are going to be down below, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!